Hey everyone, going to do the follow-up, or actually part 3 of the realistic fuel tanks tutorial. When we left off on part 2, we had put the Tamiya primer surfacer on just around the seam and on the ends of the tank here. I've got all that sanded down, and I shot this down with a thin coat of Duplicolor primer, actually straight from the can, and check my seam and see what it looked like, and it was looking pretty good. So one of the things that I do right after that step is I go in and use, in this case it was the one-shot lacquer orange from Testors, and I'll spray a light mist coat of that over top of the whole part. And what that does is kind of gives me a gloss surface to sand on to see if my seam and everything is looking good and it's all flat and everything's even. And that helps me a lot. A lot of people won't do that because they'll feel that it's a unnecessary expense, but that's just the way I do it. You can do this with just primer if you want to, but that works better for me. So that's an option for anybody that's, you know, trying to get these things as perfect as they can. If not, I guess you can just stick with your primer and, you know, just keep putting your layers of primer on and sanding them as you go. But after I get the orange on and get a light sanding on it, it tells me the high and low spots that I have around my seam or anywhere else on the fuel tank. So after I get that done, I'll go back in and put another thin coat of primer on it. And then after that dries, I will go in and wet sand the entire part with some of this 3000 grit. It's like a sand and foam actually from 3M. It doesn't take a lot of the primer off, which is a good thing because you want to try to keep as much primer on there as you can. So this part here was the one we were working on the other day, and as you can see in the end of that tank, the seams are gone. That end there, they're gone, and it's looking pretty good. The next stage on this, after you wet sand and get it, you know, as smooth as you can, is to go ahead and primer this one more time. And then once you get it primered that time, you should be ready to go for, you know, whether you're going to paint these with your body color, or whether you're going to go with an alclad, or, you know, even send them out and have them chromed. I just tried a new product yesterday that seems to work pretty good. It's from Spastics. It's actually an RC paint company, and it's called their Mirror Chrome. And this is the black backer, just like with alclad, that you put down first. What I found I like about this better than the alclad is when you put the black down, within 1 to 2 hours you can start spraying the Mirror Chrome on top of it. The alclad stuff you seem to have to let set overnight, and it's kind of a hit or miss whether it's going to work for you. So, but like I say, on the bottle it says 1 to 2 hours, and I sprayed the Mirror Chrome over it in about 1 hour. So it's pretty quick. And this is the second part of that process. That's the Mirror Chrome. Basically the same thing as alclad. This whole bottle's full, but just in the very bottom is the actual solids. You can see the silver band there. So basically the same difference as alclad. Spray's pretty good. They say 15 to 20 psi, but that depends on what airbrush you're using. I sprayed mine at about 20 with my Grex dual action airbrush. And to give you an idea what it come out like, this is one of the front wheels for the ProStar kit, and it actually come out pretty decent. It's got a good shine to it. It's definitely not what people look at as being chrome. It is a very shiny aluminum color. That's about all you're going to get out of alclad or even this Mirror Chrome stuff. You're not actually going to get chrome. But as far as being in scale, it looks real good. So I'm actually going to do the tanks with this Mirror Chrome and see how I like them. Anybody that has the ProStar kit knows that pretty much once you get the tanks assembled and the fairings in place, you won't see them anyway. But in my case, I've got a mirror underneath of it, so I will be able to see the bottom edge of the tanks. So that's pretty much all there is to that part. I may do a small tutorial on using the backer and the chrome, just to give you a demonstration on how to do that. But the only thing about the drawback of this is you have to have an airbrush. So for you guys that are using cans, that's not going to be an option for you. So I'm not sure what to tell you there, other than you need to switch over to an airbrush to do some of this stuff. But if you're going to continue to use cans, then you know, a lot of my techniques, and especially when it comes to paint and, you know, final detail stuff, is not going to apply to you, because you can't do this stuff with a can. They do make alclad in a can, the chrome. I've tried it. It works okay. It actually comes out a little bit more silver than regular alclad does, but, you know, that's also an option for you. So, but I'll keep you up to date on when we're going to do the video on, or the tutorial on, using the mirror chrome on these tanks. I had a couple of questions that was asked about some of the procedures we done in part 2 of the video, and one of them was why I took the Tamiya extra thin cement and ran over top of the seam. I do that for 2 reasons. The first one is, even though you have this glued all the way around on the inside and put together, the Tamiya extra thin cement helps bond the edge of that seam together, and that helps it disappear a lot better, and makes just your final prep work a little bit easier to do. And the other thing that I do that procedure for is, if you look at the end of that tank, you will see where it's shiny down the middle. That's where the Tamiya glue is on there. So when you start wet sanding on this, or you know, dry sanding, whatever you're doing, in this case right here, I can actually take my 3000 grit and dry sand this. You can actually tell right where your low spots are in your part, because it was shiny. Now that's just roughly running across there, and you'll see that most of that sheen disappeared, but down in the low spots it's still there, so that tells you it still needs some more sanding. So that's just a little trick that I use that it seems to work pretty good for me. So but that's the main reason for doing that, you know, to get this seam to actually seal together real good on the outside, and it kind of shows up the body work a little bit better as I get ready to sand things. So that was one of the questions on it. Another question on it was, somebody had asked me why I would go through all this trouble when I did have the aluminum tanks that we talked about in the first part of the video. Like I had said before, I am building this model as a box stock model for the contest, which means you cannot replace or modify a part. I'm sure that some people out there would try to squeeze in a set of tanks so they didn't have to fill these seams. They try to squeeze in an aftermarket set or something. If you can get by with that, that would be okay. But in all reality, that's cheating in the class. That's what the box stock class is for the people that have perfected their basics. So if you're setting a model down in that class, and instead of going through and taking the seams out of your tanks and just cheating and using an aftermarket tank, you can get by with it at a lot of contests. I can tell you, if I was a judge, I would pick up on it, and your model would be moved out of the class. So that's why I'm trying to teach these basics, and you know, it's not all that hard. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of practice to get it right, but that's why I'm doing the tutorials, to show you how to do that and to show you how these things come out. And just to give you a side-by-side comparison, here's the tank that we glued together in the first video, and this is what we have it looking like now. Another one of the questions was about cutting off the ribs on here and adding them back on. You actually could do that. It's a lot easier to get rid of the ribs and have just a smooth cylinder and then put the ribs back on. But in my case, if I do that, and some of these people that watch my videos and come to the shows that I go to, if they know that I've cut this apart and actually added ribs and stuff back in it, that could get me kicked out of the box stock class. So that's one of the reasons I won't do it. For you guys to just build for yourself, and you want to get rid of these seams, the easiest way to do it is to knock these ribs off of here and address your seam like we've done in the video, and then put the ribs back on in strip plastic. It's a whole lot easier to do it that way. So hopefully that answers the questions that I had on that. I will do the next video on how we're going to finish this tank up and get it ready to go on to the model, so that'll be coming up pretty soon. So like always, if you have any questions or concerns, just leave me a comment on the video and I'll be more than glad to get back to you. So I thank you for watching this one, and we'll talk to you later.